Okay, this video focusing on William the Conqueror. Not much is known about his early life, but we know he was born in around 1028, and his wife is called Matilda. He has lots of kids, but the three main ones are the ones I've listed. There are others. Anyway, he's Duke of Normandy from the age of 9 in 1035 to his death in 1087. He doesn't become king until his midlife, so his late 30s, early 40s in 1066, and there's reasons for that. It's to do with this guy, Harold Godwinson, and issues surrounding the succession of Edward the Confessor as King of England. He has no living children. Harold Godwinson is related by marriage and is a very powerful noble of Danish and Saxon descent who claims the throne at the beginning of 1066. There's a Nordic invasion that we all know of as kids by Harold Hardrada and Harold Godwinson's brother Tostig. That is successful at the Battle of Fulford, but then a few days later at the Battle of Stamford Bridge is, well, they're massacred. 9 days later, the Battle of Hastings takes place, and Harold Godwinson has to march his whole army south. They meet on the field of Hastings, and Harold Godwinson famously got an arrow in the eye, or did he? Bayeux Tapestry. Anywho, Harold dies, and William marches upon London, where he is crowned a few months later, sweeping all resistance. There's some resistance in East Anglia and the north of England, so the harrying of the north, and the guerrilla campaign in the marshes of the Fens goes on for some time, but pretty much the Normans are here to stay. Now, in this period, we know about Battle of Hastings and the fact that he's King of England for 21 years. Not actually much is really known about some of the stuff he actually does, and it's not really taught in schools very well. We're talking about Henry Tudor and the Stuarts more, so some of the medieval kings are really fun to look at, and they're really brutal people as well. He has 3 important sons. He has many children. He has 3 very important ones in Richard Curthouse, who becomes Duke of Normandy, William William II, who becomes King of England, and Henry I, who will later become King of England in suspicious circumstances. Richard, the eldest son, would expect to be king after his father, but that's not the case. He's given the Dukedom of Normandy. He's a soldier, like his dad. William, the second son, is going to inherit the Kingdom of England. He's also a soldier, like his dad. Henry is a lot younger, and even though he's William's favourite, he gets £10,000 as his inheritance when he hits the age of 18. He gets 10 grand. In today's money, that is a couple of million, so he's quite wealthy, but he doesn't get any land. He just gets money. He is landless. He has no estates, no titles. He's just a prince of the realm. That is it. And that will lead to further problems further down the line. Obviously, the Domesday book is a very famous book. It is one of the first in medieval culture anyway. The Romans did censuses, but this is basically a census and also a land registry. Hence why we have the land registry today. This is one of the reasons why we have it. It catalogues every single parish and county south of the Tees and Ribble, which basically is not including south of Cumbria and Northumbria. So where Newcastle and Carlisle are, they're technically part of Scotland at the time and not part of England. So we're thinking about, think of Middlesbrough and northern Lancashire. That's basically everything down to there is owned by this guy. He catalogues everything for tax purposes, and he starts it in 1085 and it's completed about 9 months later in 1086, a year before his death. There is also a period of time whereby some of the northerners rebel as part of the resistance against his rule. It's called the harrying of the north, and many people are, well, killed, which is one of the reasons for this Domesday book, to work out how much he can make money out of them after he's killed them. He dies fighting against the King of France, and what's going to happen from 1066 till about 1815 is on and off continuous warfare in France between English and French kings and dukes. Because Normandy is part of France now, and was part of actually the English dominions until about the French 100 Years' War, and then finally the last English possessions, such as Calais, were lost by Queen Mary. But there's basically continuous warfare from 1066 all the way up to 1815. It goes on for 8 centuries of, 7.5 centuries of hating each other. And this is why. He goes fighting against the King of France and his own son Richard in Normandy. He is at the siege of Mont, which is a lovely medieval town in France, and he threatens to burn the town down. And the citizens of the town are giving him the finger, and so he threatens to burn the town down. So he launches burning arrows and catapults, and they start burning the town. His horse stumbles on a cinder, and he smashes his intestines and bladder to bits. Yeah, he goes on the pommel of the saddle at full pelt, and bear in mind he was about 6 foot, so for the time he's a giant, and with full armour on he smashes into the pommel of his saddle and, well, basically screws up his bladder and intestines and dies a painful death a few days later in Normandy. So he dies. But it's very important to notice that he was the first king to basically order a massive census of the land. And this puts in place some of the things that we see today, such as the census and land registry. Without William the Conqueror, we don't have a civil service. Also, what is interesting to note, he speaks French. The average peasant speaks Saxon English, so Old English. This will be a continuous thing until the Plantagenets take over. I think Edward I is the first king to actually learn the language of English properly and fluently and be able to speak with his common subjects. Anyway, that is William the Conqueror, or William I, King of England. 21 years of pretty much chaos and mayhem. His rule is not as stable as people will think. There are several rebellions and there is a lot of fighting against the French in Normandy. His 3 sons are very important. We'll do a video on William and Henry, and Richard, well, he ends up in prison. His brothers keep him in prison, starve him to death. These 3 all hate each other. But we get 2 very interesting kings coming up. But here we go. William the Conqueror, brief little history on the reign of William the Conqueror. And thank you very much. Please like and subscribe. Please join the new channel. Please feel free to also look at my main channel, The Sports Bucking, if you like the sports stuff. I'll have some more videos for you soon.